everyone. Welcome to another episode of Coral Living. Today we got a special guest with us, Den Keeper, who's always checking in, like he likes to say. Welcome, Den. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
I guess we've been following each other's content for a while, back and forth on YouTube, and you got some interesting insights that I'd like to we could get into here. But before we do that, I thought maybe you could just let the people on the Coral Living side of things know a little bit more about you. So what's the Den Keeper show all about?
Den Keeper is basically what I feel is this late stage of being like a truther or an alternative information enthusiast. It's like it really became like what it is for me is a way for me to like make the content that like I want to see. I think that's kind of what it was for me. Like I got tired of like where truth like content was going. It's like I think everybody like that's like a truther or whatever. Like we start off with like the basic kind of like folklore and myths and stuff like that. Like the magic limo, as I call it. You know what I mean? Or the buildings. You know what I mean? And like Bigfoot and all those things. And it's like I just felt like truth in all that content just got to like a very weird place, and I just started questioning even like the truth content itself. And I think it's like it's a little bit of everything, and I try to just like question the questions, if that makes any sense.
I
And
remember your episode
yeah,
on you had questioning the question mark.
yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
That's a good episode. Go check that one out. But I have a question for you. I've heard this word used before, truther. What is a truther?
Exactly. That's really something that I feel like I'm asking myself every single day. I think for someone like myself that came up like in the 90s a little bit more, I remember like National Enquirer magazines by the checkout, and I remember like this tablet called like The Sun, where it'd be like Lizard Boy was spotted over by whatever. And I think that for a lot of people, like being a truther was just a lot of like historical fiction. And it was like a fun thing to kind of question the government and get into a lot of things. And then with those things, like there's real pockets to that. Like we can get into like the US, like the things that have gone on in America
Yeah.
and like the legacies and the families and all that stuff. Like there's a lot to that. And somehow, some way, I think that there's been a merge with the like I guess you could call it holistic or like let me, I gotta put it into just the way like I see things. It's like the people that are like, what is reality? The reality truthers. There's that world and like the spiritual world,
Yeah.
like people that meditate. I'm kind of thinking out loud right now. For me, it's like I think we've all had like we have the religious world and people that are real religious, and then you have the trickle down of that. Like I'm the type of person that was raised like you throw away a piece of food, you kiss it, you do something wrong, it's like God forgive me. It's like that kind of leftover religious like shadow that just kind of like kind of trickles down.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
if you
there's
watch this show, we're
yeah,
kind of like we got a little bit of
exactly.
that going on, right? So,
Yeah.
uh,
So
yeah,
just to wrap that up, sorry,
yeah.
just to
No,
wrap
it's
that up,
good.
it's like I think that there's this whole field of thought of like what is really going on here. That's what a truther is. A truther is someone that wants to know what's really going on here. And it's like what's really going on here in the government on this level, on this playing field. And then there's like what's going on in the like cosmic background. Like what's going on and what's fueling this and what's making this happen. And then there's the like what are our thoughts, what's our body? And I think that all of that has kind of come together nowadays. And
Right.
the way I see it is that the sentiment I try to bring to YouTube is like for us late stage truthers, for us people that have read the books, we've looked into 9/11, we've looked into JFK, We've looked into Bigfoot. We've had the flat earth debates, all of that shit. Like, we all know there's something more going on here than we're being told. There's a spiritual connection. This thing that's going on in my head that talks and that makes these thoughts and all these things, there's got to be something more going on here. And there are people in this society, the intellectual science people, that are going to tell us that there's nothing going on. There's no magic in this world, right? So it's like you get these two different parties. There's the people that believe that there's a spirit in this, there's a spirit in that. And then there are people that think that everything is just material matter and it is what it is. And then in between, it's like, where do people go? And if you're not like all the way on like one level, I think you get lost in the middle. And I mean, I can go into just related to like spiral dynamics. I think about like stage yellow, and it talks of like based on knowledge and what people know. And it's like you can know a lot of information, but that doesn't make you wise. And it's like I think that right now we're in a state of society where people that are very like unhuman are praised for that. So we have people like Elon Musk. I'm sorry I'm going on a rant here, but I'm trying to connect some thoughts.
Rant away.
So we have people like Elon Musk, right? They're so robotic, right? And it's like they're, and I mean, this is not a stab at anybody's mental health stuff, whatever, X, Y, and Z. These people that are like, he has said he's autistic or has Asperger's, whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is like these rigid people, like Elizabeth Holmes with her Theranos thing. It's like we're starting to praise these people that don't have emotions. And Elon Musk, he doesn't crack a smile, or he's like super analytical and he knows so much. And it's like, but you're not a human. Like you're not a person that I want to hang out with. And we're starting to praise and honor in society people that are not emotional, and that, oh, this person doesn't think with their emotions. And this comes down to like masculine, feminine shit when people try to be like, oh, because women think with their emotions. That's a straw man bullshit argument that people make. And it's like this whole thing of like, oh, I just look at the numbers and crunch the numbers and do the code and the numbers don't lie. We honor that now, but it's like, why are we allowing people who are inhumane in their nature to make decisions for everybody else? Now, I'm not saying I should be in there either fucking giving my spiel on you know what I mean, society either, but what I'm saying is like why why does Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, and this is when it turns into crazy truth or shit, why does a guy who's got really good at selling used books get to make a decision about the way people live their life?
Yeah, no.
Like, where do we cross that threshold? And that's when the money comes up. And sorry, I will pass the mic. I think if I have to like say what it is I'm doing with Den Keeper, I'm a blue collar spiritualist. I believe in magic. But I believe that if you say something enough and have enough intent, the shit will come true. And I think that if you get 100 people in the room and they're all trying to do the same thing, those things are gonna happen. I believe in all that shit. I believe there's colors that we could smell, sounds that we could taste. I believe that there's interdimensional shit. I believe in all of that. But what I'm trying to say is, I gotta get to work Monday, 9:00, I gotta be there. And what I'm trying to say is like, I'm a dude from like the hood, the ghetto, whatever you want to call it. So my senses have always had to be much higher. So what I feel, and again, it's hard to see, I contradict myself all the time, but that's how I grow. I don't want to be an empath. I don't want to be tapped into the Akashic record. But my brothers, let me tell you something, I am. When I walk down the hood and I see shit, and I see somebody on something, and they go into slow motion, and I see the problem coming. That's from years and years of having to get through shit and doing shit. And I've tapped into that realm. I've gotten fucked up. I've done a lot of shit that I don't do no more. And I have gone to the other side, and I've seen what's over there. And it's sadness, and it's emptiness, and it's bullshit. And what I'm trying to do is talk to people that look like me, come from where I'm from and be like, yo, there is something more going on in this fucking world. But I'm not going to sit under a tree all day. I'm not going to be here, Mr. Spiritual, with the incense lit. Like, no, I'm a dude that has to get up and be at work and do a real job and be a husband to my wife and a father to my child and pay my fucking bills. And at the same time, believe in all that shit. Like, it's like I'm very hard on the truth of the world. I'm like an anti-truth or truther. I go, yeah, bro, the fucking towers, we know who did it. Him and his dad did it. They did it. They took the dude out in the limo and then they dropped the towers, bro. I can show you the information. It's right there. But you know what? What does that teach me? That teaches me. So this is what I mean. Post woke. I've seen the source code. I've seen the bullshit. But now let me use it. And now let me get a group of friends of mine together that cohere and think about the same shit. And maybe we can create a world of our own where we're happy. If these motherfuckers can do it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yes, so that's just kind of sorry. That's where I'm at with that.
You made a good point in there when you were saying, like, you know, I believe all this stuff, but I got to go to work. Like, I think that's sometimes people will look at like the teachings of Jesus or something, right? And he'll say something that seems very challenging, and it's like, you know, I don't care if it's Christ or Osho or whatever, you know, when you're elevated to a position where you're usually just sitting on a cushion all day with like devotees, it's kind of easier to project an image of togetherness and like you've evolved so far. It's like, hey man, this guy's not struggling day to day to pay the bills and running into crackheads on the street, you know, like, and I agree. I think that you can actually cultivate some of the, like, I guess you'd call them like spiritual gifts or whatever from kind of coming from a rough place, you know, like who's to say that there aren't enlightened warriors out there that have, you know, their intuition has skyrocketed from trauma rather than sitting on a cushion all day, you know, bloviating about whatever. There's like so many things you said there. I tried to remember as much as I could. But
you killed it. That was quite the intro. I was like, you stole the show.
I mean, I read Siddhartha when I was in high school, right? And it really it really opened up a lot in my mind. Like back then, I wish it would have opened up a little bit more. But like, it was these different stages of his life. You know what I mean? And going through all these different things. And then I remember seeing like Forrest Gump too. And like just this idea of like being at all these pivotal times or just trying to experience everything. But back to like Siddhartha, I remember like him going from like rich to poor and all these different stages. And I really resonated with that. Like how like you could just be a different person at a different time in your life. But then there's the curiosity and wanting to go through all those things. It's like how do you learn without experience, but how do you aim to not fuck up in life? It's like no one wants to make mistakes on purpose. You know what I mean?
But it's like run towards the danger or the adversity that's going to maybe give you some experience, wisdom, and skill. People don't usually like, you know, that's a challenge for being a parent. You had mentioned that you're a new parent. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
But when you're raising your kids, that's a real concern, is that you kind of want them to have some adversity thrown their way so that they can build character and everything. But you don't, you know, you're not going to like toss your kid into the swimming pool when they don't know how to swim and be like, sink or swim, bitch. You know, like you want to give them a good life. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, something like you mentioned too about like community harbor and stuff like that. It reminds me of like toxic positivity. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of people.
Did you coin that term?
Oh no, that's all over the place. There's
it's like femininity, toxic positivity. Yeah. How many more can we do that
with? It's like there's these people that just like I feel like they feed on a lot of that negativity.
And then they start and then they start doing that thing that one of your videos I watched I really liked, and you were talking about like, you know, pay attention to what you're saying. I think it was the video on mantras and stuff, and that thing where a common turn of phrase now is like, I'm dying or I'm crying and all this stuff. And when you're doing that toxic positivity thing, it's like, hey, are we still being objective here? Are we still like actually looking at truth because we value truth above
Yeah.
getting along? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I totally relate to that. I mean, there are people that start platforms like to relate to like video games and stuff like that. You'll see certain platforms where it's like, oh, I'm trying to harbor a community of positivity and you know what I mean, speaking out on depression. And it's like, so what you're really trying to do is round up a bunch of sad people to come feed your nonsense. And
Yeah.
it's like,
That
that's the kind
happens.
of shit that rubs me the wrong way with what I see online with a lot of different things. Where it's like everybody wants to like try to virtue signal and do the right
Oh
thing
yeah. Oh
instead
yeah.
of actually doing the right thing. And with the wordplay, that's something that was important to me because you know it's like I know a lot of people that are into hip hop, into rap, all these things, and it's like that's poetry, and that music hypnotizes us. And what people say like becomes like the truth. It can become your truth, and it's like we can talk about truth because I have a theory on what the truth really is. But like people, like you said, people will say, "Oh, I'm dying. I'm dying," when it's like it's supposed to be something funny. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm crying." It's like, no, you're laughing, and then people won't even do that. And like that's kind of what I was getting to in that video. And there's just what like in the truth of the world, they have like that stuff where like people will be like, "Oh, don't say bless," because it actually means be less. So there's like
Oh
this whole
yeah. You can
like
get a little OCD about everything,
yeah,
right?
there's a whole thing with that. And that was something where I felt like it needed to be spoken on. Like with the truth, it can be a lot of different things. Like it can be fun. Like I like to do that. Like you can find words that are like that and it'll take up your time. It's like playing a crossword puzzle.
And it's kind of
But
like
yeah,
magical if you can, you
yeah,
know, if you understand the power of words and how they influence people's conscious and subconscious mind. There's a little bit of power there when you start playing with them and
Repetitively going over because you see that
people
like
do that
in
man.
mainstream news. They repeat the same words
Yeah,
over and over,
yeah, it's
trigger
not by
words.
accident.
And every news station's doing the same on the radio. They're all saying the exact same words.
Here's one. Have you ever met somebody that every time you talk to them, they're ostensibly being very polite, but they're always framing your situation in a negative light, like, "Oh, hey man, I heard that bad stuff happened to you," or "Oh, that's adorable that you're trying to do that." Like everything is framed. They're using like a evil black magic. I don't care what anybody says. That's what they're doing, and they know what they're doing, and it's to frame you, and it's like bullying. It's like subconscious bullying, really, in my
it really
opinion.
is.
I don't know.
It really is because words, they're just trying to like open up a doorway in your mind. What we're speaking right now, which is words that are keys to unlock a certain feeling. Like a cookie is a cookie everywhere in the world. There's just a different way to call it. And then that brings me into what I sometimes think is truth are these constants. So like hunger, no matter how you frame that feeling in words, hunger is hunger.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe is the truth. I think
Taking a
that
dump.
desires are truth. Yeah, these are truths.
It's
Like these
true.
are
You can't avoid it.
it
Unless you
has
don't eat, I guess, which you'd
and
have to
then
avoid hunger.
and that's how we get finessed because it's like people don't want to be embarrassed. And it's like if you know that no matter what, people need to fucking take a piss or wipe their ass, they're gonna need those things. Now
The great humanizer.
you're not going to be able to
Equalizer.
sell a lot of pants to people that live in a place where people don't wear pants. So
Yeah.
you can't capitalize on that insecurity because insecurities and all those things, that's what I
Yeah.
think are truths. I think truths are actually certain feelings, and that when you know how true something is, like what the stock value of that feeling is in a certain place, you can control people. So when people want a lot of things because they come from a place where they don't have it, you can capitalize on them with their insecurities and with material shit. But when you go to places where people have a lot of money, it's a little bit more affluent. I know these people, I've been to these places. Their insecurities come with status. So for example, making a certain team or making a certain thing is going to be a lot more important to someone in a certain place. So if you're in a place where you don't got no money, you're trying to get to the NBA because you need that check, you want that money. If you're from a place where you already have money, you want that maybe because your dad's a coach of some fucking university somewhere, or your dad was really good at something, or you just got a lot of money and you now want more like status and stuff, and that kind of
Affluence
brings
plays
yeah.
such a big part. Like, I mean, how could you even have, say, a disorder like obsessive compulsive disorder if you didn't live in an affluent culture? You know, like if your tribe was being raided by some counter group, you wouldn't be like, hang on, I just gotta sort this bookshelf so that, you know, they'd be like, stop it, you know, like you wouldn't have that problem if you didn't have the time to be caught up with nonsense. Yeah, and you're right, it's like you're not going to be able to sell the same stuff to, like, take shaving, the way that we groom ourselves, right? Like, girls got to shave their armpits. What point in history was it that they put that cultural meme into our heads, and now it's like, ooh, like a totally natural thing that happens? Maybe it was like a razors company that was like, we're having trouble selling razors, like, take out an ad saying that, you know, armpit hair is gross, and now we're stuck. And now we got to do this unnatural thing, and it costs money, and, you know, how many things like that are there that people just, you know, take for granted? Like, were the apes doing that? Were they pulling armpit hairs off of each other? Like, I don't know. I'm locked on armpit hair.
I think with the body grooming and stuff like that, I think it has to do with like disease and sickness culture. Because think about like the 80s, there were like 80s and 90s, there were like crazy like outbreak, you know what I'm saying, like HIV, AIDS, stuff like that. And I think that maybe that made people want to be, this is a theory, be a little bit more cleanly in certain parts of their bodies.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things. You see, it's those truths. It's like people like 200 years ago were like throwing their shit in the street and like there were germs everywhere. But as people start to know and find out more about these things, they get more worried about it. I mean, I know this with my daughter like all the time, where I argue with my wife, where it's like there's a kid like on the side of like a river in a patch of dirt somewhere who's fine, who's fed and chilling, and it's like we're constantly wiping everything down, and it's like I'm pretty sure kids have gotten by with a little dust on the
I
counter.
actually have that problem. I've got obsessive compulsive problems, and it's the most annoying thing in the world because it's so damn stupid. It's such a time waster.
Yeah.
And so I wish I didn't have to deal with that, but I do. And I'm, you know, of course that went crazy over COVID, and you know, until I lightened up about it, it's weird. I don't know. There's some things that are just absolutely futile that I can't believe I get consumed with trying to deal with. That I'm sure it's obsessive compulsive issues. You've been pretty quiet, man.
Yeah. Well, you guys are making this easy for me. You guys are like you guys are killing it with your good conversation.
Yeah.
The OCD thing. I think that kind of relates to the religious trickle down too, because okay. You see, let's dissect this whole mental health OCD thing. People use mental health terms as euphemisms. Like people people will just compare something to some shit that's an actual problem that people deal with. People be like, oh my God, my OCD is kicking in because I need to retie my sneakers. And I get that too. And like I said, with any thought and any idea, I am a flip-flop. That is me. I can agree with one thing one day, disagree with it the next minute, whatever. So the thing of like OCD almost kind of being because of privilege, I agree and disagree with that. Now I see myself now, I'm at a point in my life where, like, you know, I got nice shit, I work, I have the ability to have things, so I get obsessed over like my setup, my desk setup. Like if my mouse is not on the right side,
I'm exactly
and I want my shit. Fuck, my wires are everywhere. I can't believe all these fucking wires. It doesn't look like the sexy setup when I Google it on the shit now. But now on the other side, I dealt with OCD as a kid, and I think it was like an echo of a lot of superstition. So the like don't step on a crack stuff. And then in my household, just having like not like sort of religious, just like, you know, kiss the food if you throw it out. You know, don't split the pole.
Well, if somebody
like
plants
that
in your head,
they plant it in your head.
If somebody says something like,
well, you know, if you're not absolved of all your sins, then if you were to die right now, you'd go to hell. You know what I mean? And then you're like
Exactly.
walking around mumbling to yourself, praying for forgiveness for every little tiny thing you do. And then God forbid somebody comes along and says, oh, did you know there's an unforgivable sin? That would be cursing the Holy Spirit.
What about the sense of control too? That like people, I find people who are more OCD, it might be they feel like they have a lack of control in their life. So the things that they do, the little things that they can put in place, gives them a sense of control in their life. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably a good way to, I don't know.
No, I
Tie
totally
that in a
agree
bow.
with that. I totally agree with that. I think people try to find those things that are like gonna like that talisman or that thing that's gonna like that lucky charm, whatever it's gonna be, that's gonna help them get that thing done. And it's like I said, like the OCD thing. I saw it happen to myself as a younger kid because like you said, like not having that control and thinking and wondering like what is it that I can do to try to make this situation better. You know what I mean? And I think that we attach to that spiritually, and that makes me think about like, you know, what is truth. Like if you believe that something is keeping you safe and guarded, are you maybe actually channeling that thing that you need? Is there something there that's walking with you, or are you just finding it in yourself? And like, is it all right? You know what I mean? Like people that would be like, well, you know, maybe I'm not a real healer, but the guy felt like, you know, the placebo effect. And like how much of things that we do are like the placebo effect. That's what I wonder about a lot of times.
Yeah. What's even needed to do versus what's a complete waste of time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. You had a bunch of questions that you sent me. Things that you. What is a was it a YT truther? Is that a YouTube truther?
Oh yeah, I think let me see what I had
Not a young Turk.
Yeah, it's like a Young Turks, or is that you? Or is it a YouTube?
No,
truther?
I read it. It was you were talking about YouTube truth content.
Oh yeah, like you like I remember when you could go on YouTube and watch like almost like anything as far as a person's opinion and what they think about something, and you could find a lot of like historical fiction, let's put it that way. You could go on there and watch a fun documentary about aliens or different things, and now when you go searching for content, you don't find anything. It's like everything is all this like really big mainstream information, and it's hard to find content nowadays on YouTube. And it's like I try my best to like really filter, like upload date. I search like this week and different things, but it just seems like it's harder and harder to really find what you search for, like what you want to find.
Well,
on
you
YouTube
got to
now.
dig because there's so many people throwing their content all over the internet right now that is like a
Yeah.
big mishmash. I don't know. I think it's good because it actually teaches us how to kind of like search things through. Although you always got to be aware of looking for confirmation bias. That seems to be a huge thing right now. People like if you look up one thing that like makes you feel comfortable or good inside about something you believe in, YouTube's going to pick up on those algorithms and it's going to spit it out to you. Same with all the apps. They're constantly reaffirming your belief system. So you got to be aware of that and search past.
A good word is a demagogue. And think about the people that are literally probably sit down and are like, what is something that people probably want proved right? And then they make a website or content as a demagogue, literally just, trying to be amiable and trying to like they don't believe it themselves, like it's like my dad doesn't think Tucker Carlson believes anything that he's actually saying. He's like, oh, he doesn't believe anything he's saying. He's literally just saying what he thinks that his audience wants to hear. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't care, but because I probably wouldn't watch a media forum like that. But that's definitely it got to exist.
Oh yeah,
people
all news. I feel like every mainstream, everything is that right now. Just
and then people defend mainstream stuff. And don't let me get started on that. You know? Like some people rather than listen. If you like to watch it and it's entertaining and you've got a good argument, but you can't deny that these things, that there's room for corruption in them, and why die on that hill defending mainstream media? Like,
it's crazy. I think people don't want to be wrong. Like, people want to have like a definite source that they can turn to, and
they fucking lied to us about the damn we were there, and we came back, and they were like, oh, they're protesting over potholes, and it's just a small group of crazy, find the one guy with a Nazi flag, and we were there. It's like I got back, and that changed my view of that stuff forever, and it's so funny that I can say to somebody, hey man, I was there, I watched it unfold, and they're still like, I'm not gonna, no, I believe them. They've got a whole team of people working on this. I'm like, there's always a whole team of people working on any corrupt endeavor. What does that have to do with anything, whether it's a team or not?
Well, you're
professional assholes.
You're from the States, so you've seen it. You already brought up 9/11. I actually just listened to a few videos yesterday on 9/11. But in the States, there seems to be a whole bunch of that going on. Everyone likes to watch the United States because you guys are fun to watch.
It's wild. Like, people cling to the news because they need something that they can like quote and say, like, look, I showed you, like, this is it, like they said it here. So yeah, it's like it's a source, and it's like I can't even like I turn on the news when I need to be distracted from my life. Like, when I need to be distracted from things that are going on, like, real in my life, I put the news on for about 10 or 15 minutes. I laugh and I turn the shit off.
Yeah. It's I find it's more though our parents, like the boomer generation, they're really hooked on the old system. For them, I think they put into that system, so that they see anything as pulling away from that system and like maybe making something better, as like, don't touch what worked. For them it's their holy cow. Which is a good, if it is coming from a place of that, hear it out for a second. Yeah. If it's like, if it ain't broke, don't mess with it. So they're a little corrupt. Hey man, the power's on and we're not at war. Because think about it, the boomers came tailing the Second World War, and everybody was like, we do not want to do that again. We do not want to do that again. So maybe there is a little bit of value in like, hey man, just fall in line. Fall in line. You don't know what all this radicalism can do to I think you should listen to your elders. There's definitely listen to heed the warnings, but come on, progression is inevitable. It's going to come. So we can make things better. I hope your argument, not yours, but the argument is that don't touch it, we can touch it and we can massage it and make it better through tests, and I do believe that you shouldn't do anything too hastily. That you should work on things systematically, kind of see what works, see what doesn't, and don't take grandiose risks. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I don't know. What do you think, Den?
I think the news is not supposed to be entertaining, and that's exactly what it is. And here in America, we like to take things that aren't supposed to be
well, why would people pay
have
attention
market
if it's
value?
Just the truth,
It's
exactly. That's not very. Come on.
it's like with insurance. We take insurance and we go, how do we make this thing valuable? And the way to make it valuable is to limit how much of it is. It's rare.
Sugar,
and then
sex, violence.
It's like with the news, I think it used to actually be something that people looked to know what was going on when they didn't have a way to know what's going on. And now there are so many ways to consume news. It's not just the radio or Channel 5. You have so many outlets that you have to spread it out. And if you're spreading it out, you got to water it down. And you have to make it entertaining. And then what happens is, how do we make this nude show wacky and cool and interesting? And they spice it up. And there's a big ass table and there's a backdrop. And then we're gonna pay this person $20 million a year just to talk to you about some shit, when the news should really just be what's in the fucking newspaper or what you could listen to in an hour. In one night. Like, it doesn't need to be the fact that there are 24-hour news outlets running the same bullshit lets you know that it's fake and that it's nonsense.
Well, it used to be very different, probably. You know, back when mainstream media news was launching in whatever the 50s or 60s, it probably was a lot more boring by today's standards. You know, there may have been a time where people were just like, "Oh, good to know somebody was murdered in Toronto."
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And now you're right. It's like with the hyper sensationalized culture, capitalist exploit people culture. It's like, damn it, we ruined their brains with colors and you know, highly stimulating stuff. They can't even watch news anymore. Better make it, you know,
spice it up, make it, and like the jig's up with the access to information now. That you can compare all the like news sources now on like one screen, and they all are regurgitating the same shit. The message is like crystal clear. And then it's always geared towards like negative things. It's not like you know, we discovered a cure for this, or we've learned how to we're learning how to do this, and this is how we're going to reduce inflation or make your taxes cheaper. It's never about that. It's always like we got food shortages, COVID's coming to get you. There's wars in the world. It's never anything like good. Only bad news.
It's never good. And this is something that I heard from Christopher Sedaris. He says, you can't be a truther nowadays because all you find are the lies. It's very hard to go out and find the truth to something. All you're going to find is the bullshit that they've been playing. And this is why I strongly believe that the truth is inside. They say the truth is out there. I think the truth is in here. I think that's where the truth is. And it's like, you're not going to find out like you said, what's actually going on in the news. You're going to find out what they want you to think and what they want you to know.
Even if it was all bad news, I mean, make the bad news worth it. Not like a new celebrity sex tape or some fucking Will Smith slapped a guy. Shut up already about that, man. He slapped a guy. Let's move on. You know, it's like, we're going to have our correspondent in D.C., you know, analyze how, you know, the exact angle the slap went on. It's like, hey, man, did you know 3/4 of the world's soil is going bad? You know, like, how about keep it a little bit, or maybe.
But you're a crazy truther if you say that. If you say that, you're crazy. And it's like explaining the punchline to a joke. It ruins it. And for a lot of people in this world, if you explain to them what's going on, you're ruining the show for them.
Yeah.
And they don't want to hear that.
Yeah, wow.
And there are certain places and certain atmospheres where you can't talk about these things. And then that starts to happen a lot more too, where everywhere you go now, it's no politics, no religion, no race, no whatever. It's like, okay, so then when the fuck do we get to talk about this? Because if we're not talking about this at work, we're not talking about it at the dinner table, we're not exchanging thoughts online with each other, where are we doing this at? And this is a reference to also the video game world, which I would like to talk about later or whatever, is like with streaming and the Twitch world and all that shit, all that like professional like video game world, it's like people are selling other people their dream. And it's like the support for that shit, I think, is in a very like weird place too, because it's like you have, I'm trying to piece this together. It's like you have, I sort of lost my train of thought.
No, I know what you're saying. I think what you were trying to say there is like, when you give all your time, like our kids stuck on tablets and video games, and even adults, grown men, like I'm susceptible to it. I got a PlayStation. The more time you give to this fantasy world, you are giving your creativity up to live through someone else's creativity dream the thing that they've done, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not saying video games are evil, but be aware of what's going on, and don't forget to let yourself be creative. You be creative. Let your things.
I think what I was getting to was like the different atmospheres of where people can talk about things. So like, for example, like in the video game world, whatever, I'll see people, they have like Discord, or even on YouTube, people have a Discord, and it's like I've got into people's Discords, and they're like, all right, no politics, no religion, no this, no that. It's like, so then what the fuck am I here to do? It's like, what am I here to do if we're not going to talk real shit? Because the truth is not sweet and nice all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of things are very uncomfortable to talk about. And if we're not talking about these things, I don't think they get better. I don't think that if we just stay quiet about it, it's going to just go away. And like with toxic positivity and all that, people will be like, oh, you know, positive vibes. Like in my home and shit, like, yeah, you know, positive vibes only. If you want to think about that, but that's just not the truth. It's not going to always all be peace and love all the time. And I think that being angry is something I see as a privilege. I think the ability and the right to be able to complain about stuff is important. Some of the things that I love the most on YouTube are people just like angry yelling about stuff nowadays. Like, even if it's some shit I don't agree with, it could be somebody saying some foul shit.
Yeah.
But I will listen to it because they're passionate and they're being honest and they're letting me know where they stand. Yeah. I would rather a person let me know where they are than lead me in. A quick note on racism and what real racism is. People talk about racism a lot. A real racist will not let you near them. A real racist, if you are not them, and this doesn't mean any particular person that is a supremacist of that thing, truly should not let anybody around them. Now, put up your flag, pull up your shit that says you don't want me around you. I can respect that. Most people don't do that. What they're going to do is they're going to get into positions of power and they're going to fuck people over. And they're going to make choices and do things that keep people down. That's racism. So it's like, if people want to go and say and talk and do all that negative, crazy shit, they need a place to go do that shit. Because the secret, unspoken racism and negativity and evil and devilishness is the actual problem. And like when people talk about, oh, sacrificing babies and children, you can take that any way, which way you want. There are literally people that are fucking taking the lives of small people, like children. I don't even like the words to escape me, but this is happening in this world somewhere. Now,
like
there are also
exactly.
There are also people that are sacrificing children in the sense of putting them into positions to fight for them when they're not the ones fighting. We make people decide when they're 18, 19, and 20 years old what they're going to do with the rest of their fucking life. And that's what I think sacrificing babies is. So you could take it literal. Oh yeah, some dude's fucking drinking the blood out of a kid, and I'm not going to confirm or deny that shit because who knows? I think we all know. The point is, there's so many different levels to these different conspiracies and how you could take them. And I think that, to try to put my thoughts like together, is that's how I try to spin things and think about stuff, where it's like this, the literal sense that these things are happening, but there's also a very metaphoric sense to a lot of things that are happening. And then there's also the spiritual sense, because nobody does anything thinking that they were wrong. I'm pretty sure Saddam Hussein thought those people up in the mountains didn't deserve to be there. And it's like, it's not because he thought it was wrong. No one ever does anything because they think it's wrong. They do it because they think it benefits them. And now where that desire comes from, where does that shit come from? And that's where I think I am at in questioning things. Where is it that this desire to want to fucking melt the skin off somebody comes from? Where does that come from? Where does that anger come from? Because again, anger is a privilege. Anger is a privilege. Ask somebody working for minimum wage in a fucking fast food restaurant that just got cursed out and they gotta eat that shit and wipe the fucking milkshake off their face if they feel happy in that moment, if they feel that they have any power, no matter where in the fucking
world. Especially when the next customer is pulled up in a Rolls Royce. But
exactly.
It's like I hear what you're saying, and I think about that.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes
Keep going off.
I think about that with greed, like why we have enough resources. Humanity is we've got enough now that we could probably equalize the playing field quite a bit. Like nobody really has to go without, and if humanity worked together, we could do some amazing things. But there's greed. There's I don't want to just have enough to live and you have it too. I want there to be a dichotomy. I want you to actually not have as much as me so I can, and I don't know if that comes from an animal thing. Like my daughter's got a hamster and you could feed it till it exploded. Like it'll just keep storing it, it doesn't know when to stop. And I don't know if it's greed is something that has to do with that or if it's, some kind of trauma that makes you think like I'm not worth anything unless I've got more. It's not enough that we all have the same amount. I need to be higher. That could straight up come from somebody's effed up parent being like, you're worth, prove that you're worth something, trauma came from their parent and their trauma came from their parent. And then if you don't break the cycle, you're never going to be okay with some kind of evolved, enlightened, intelligent culture where we actually can share. We watched the fucking Care Bears growing up. Why can't we get along and share? We can't do it. We're stuck in this not even don't care about truth. No interest in truth. Just interested in mostly greed, like egoic greed, and
It might also come from a little bit of a place of at one point in their life not having, like if you came from a place of scarcity and then you were finally able to accumulate, you might be like, well, I could be back there again, so I need to get as much as I can.
But those people end up grateful. The people that are coming from a place of they didn't have enough, it makes them super frugal. It makes them not throw out their fries with their, it makes them eat every single last piece of their meal. I'm talking about the thing where it's like, I want there to exist a difference between me and you, where I have and you've got less. I don't want you to have nothing because then the game's over. Yeah. But I want the game to be that I'm always got.
Do you think that can kind of run from a place of like the subconscious?
I think you got your ass kicked by someone when you were a kid and you have no self-worth. For some reason you get this idea in your head that your self-worth comes from dominating other people. I think that's where it comes from. I could be wrong, but I you got to do some therapy.
Yeah, I think there's truth to what you're saying, but what I'm saying, do you think like those people that are like that could be maybe on kind of autopilot, where they're not aware that that's actually what they're doing?
Yes,
they need to, but
definitely
they're still doing it.
Yes, but in fact, because they've built an identity around that, there's all these rationalizations and justifications for their behavior. So their conscious mind isn't gonna address that they need to go into therapy and work through some kind of childhood trauma or figure out how they got to that place. They're going to be like, this is just how it goes. You got to keep up with the Joneses. You got to da-da-da-da-da. They're going to rationalize the shit out of it, and then the crap spreads. They teach their kids the same thing, really, you're going to wear that to school? Don't you want to look better than everybody else? It just goes on and on,
No.
And then truth talkers like us come along, and what do those people do? They probably change the damn channel. Let's go see what Tucker's saying.
Sometimes I think about these things, right? Like these things that people want, and it's like this intention that so many people want that thing. Sometimes I wonder if it like really actually has an effect on it. Like everybody wanting a certain like type of like food or whatever will make it like be scarce or go up and down. And then it's like when people want a certain sense of like a feeling, I wonder like if there's enough of that to go around. Sometimes it's like, because everybody can't all be happy right at the same time, because like there's got to be some people that have it, some people that don't. And sometimes I just wonder, like, if like feelings and all those emotions and all the things, like, is there enough happiness, whatever that thing is in this world, for everyone, or are we all just kind of like in this weird,
Huh.
like, marketplace of emotions, like I call it, where it's like maybe there's only, it's like musical chairs of happiness, where it's like everybody's
Interesting.
trying to acquire this feeling of being warm, being fed, being this thing. But then when
Right.
you have like feeling like praise or gratitude or whatever that is, it seems like there's just never ever enough of that.
You're onto something there, because it is like people have taken something like happiness and commodified it into something like gold, and then they've projected onto the notion of happiness or peace or whatever a materialist veneer, right? So it's like, what is happiness? Happiness is drinking a Corona on a beach. That's what it is. And you know what? There's not enough of that. We can't all be doing that at the same time, because,
Yeah.
the world would fall apart. But what if that's not even what happiness is? Like, what if everything you've been told happiness isn't what it is? And happiness is something else that really is, like you said, comes from the inside. Like, it's a cliche, man. People have been saying this. But how hard is that nut to crack to really get into people? Like, you don't understand. No, you don't understand. You're going to forget what I said, and you're going to go along, and you're going to confuse happiness with having more or being on a beach. Happiness can be chopping wood in a forest. Like, that could be happiness.
Yeah. And
Yeah, it's hard to do these casts, like I'm a family man. I got 3 kids, 4 dogs in my house right now.
wow.
So it's you gotta, yeah. Normally we do this at nighttime when like they're all in bed.
Yeah.
But now they're all awake and they're doing what kids do.
I got to get those in.
Hold on, give me a second.
All you vapors. I had to give up. I gave up on my vaping about
Cheat codes. That's what we got to talk that like. Okay, yeah, but that's what I was thinking. Like all that, we were talking about material stuff, and like wanting these things that make us happy, and how for like one person it might be drinking a Corona on a beach, and for another person it's something else. And I think that we're all trying to get to these places of peace and content and happiness. And I use cheat codes all the time. Like, if I need to take a puff, I do. If it's buying a nice pair of sneakers, I do that. I treat myself to the things using my life points that I earn to get myself these nice things, because it's like a cheat code. But to equate it to video games, when you use the cheat code too much, you don't unlock the trophy. And if every time you go to fuck your wife, you got to take a shot of alcohol, or if every time you go do a design, you got to take a hit of a blunt, eventually that shit's not going to work. And the cheat code, even if it is working, is never going to work as well as if you just did it yourself.
Right. Well, part of the thing is, I've thought about this exact same thing. Is you ever had a game where you put in God mode or all the cheats? The game sucks.
It sucks.
You actually pick games because of their challenge, right? So,
yeah.
And people want to jump to the nice part, or find the cheat code so that they can just beat the game. It's like, man, that's the best way to ruin a game. Sometimes it's doing the thing over and over again, and then you feel that reward when you've actually figured it out and accomplished it without the cheat codes.
And people will spite you for it.
Yeah, we're back.
Well, and people will spite you for it too. If they see that you're going through life cheat coding it all the way through, they're going to go, yo, I'm playing the game on easy. You're fucking blasted all the time. You know what I mean? Like, that's not fair. And I think
I am a cheater.
That happens too.
I'm
yeah.
a cheat code guy. I'm only playing Grand Theft Auto for like 4 minutes before I'm like, screw this, all the cheat codes, killing everybody.
Yeah, I'm imperfect.
At my own malevolence in that game. Those poor characters.
Well, maybe
totally.
Behind this alleyway. Well, maybe with all the talk on happiness and stuff like that, maybe like we've brought this up before on the show, is like, how do you need something to contrast that against? how would you ever know you were happy if you didn't feel unhappy, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it's necessary that not everyone be happy all at the same time, that you have to feel sadness in order to be able to
that's why I'm trying to toy with the idea of maybe there's more complex feelings than happiness or sadness to have. Like, maybe,
bliss,
joy. And again, talk to somebody that's done some psychedelics or something, they'll be like, man, there are, you can be afraid in your soul. You can actually feel your soul being terrified. Not your normal conscious mind. It gets a little strange, right? And that all has to do with consciousness and, how the consciousness can possibly expand and what more can be experienced. I don't know why I think I was talking about this a couple episodes ago. I don't know why it is that way, that it would just so happen to be that you can take these substances and then get some kind of an understanding of reality that otherwise you wouldn't be privy to. Everything's already weird, so go figure. Sometimes that's like in a video game, finding a mushroom that makes you bigger, or whatever,
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem that way.
Mushrooms.
It's like, the thing of like there needing to be bad for there to be good, and for it to kind of hold it up against something else. Like I think about irony. I think contrast and irony are like really interesting things. It's like something funny is something that you didn't expect to happen, but it's still like pleasing to you, right? That's like my loose definition. Yeah. It's like we like when things are like different than another thing.
I want to add the caveat too, that there's lots of different ways, I think, to expand your consciousness. Just experience, if you got the opportunity to go to another culture and see what they're about, that's gonna expand your consciousness a little bit. That's gonna change your reality and give you insights. Like most people know that feeling when they find like a new type of music or a new topic that lights their brain up like a switchboard, and they're engaged, and they're like, oh, there's this whole new vein of reality to explore now. That's all I was saying with the psychedelics thing, is that you can do that with that. You can also do that with, meditating probably, and or some kind of spiritual practice, or just straight up experience, saying yes to some things in life rather than no, and I'm going to go hide in my hobbit, cave. Which I did, man. I turned into a hobbit for a good long while there. Saw what that was about.
Yeah, I think that's important too. Time to oneself and stripping away, because people talk about stripping away the ego and things like that, and with mushrooms and all of that, that's fun and everything. And I call that seeing the source code. It's like if you take a web page and you look at the code, that's interesting. And like if you want to say that the colors and the rainbows and all that shit is at the base of reality, awesome. And this is my thing. Awesome. Reality is here. It's what's going on the stage. Yeah. And it's like, if you're telling me how all this shit works in the coding, that's interesting, but you're not playing the game. Yeah. And it's about what's here. And it's like, if you really, I think the truth, strip away your clothes. Put on a hospital gown. With no drawers on. Put yourself in a freezing cold environment. No money, no food, no friends, no haircut. You're going to learn a lot about the truth and reality. Yeah. Have one meal a day that's dictated by somebody else.
Yeah, not because that's you're on a diet, but because you have to. That's a different thing.
That's the fucking truth. Mm-hmm. People want to like, I fucking went to India and met the Maharishi and I did this and I did that to try to become enlightened. It's like, that fucking $900 flight you took, where did that shit come from? Power and greed and bullshit and pollution and all that shit. You stripped from the earth and ate this fucking thing so that you could tell yourself that you saw what was going on behind the stage.
Maybe that's why they
Congratulations. You need to be at work at 9 o'clock on Monday. And all that shit you did is going to make you hate what's going on here. If you keep getting high all the fucking time and loafing out all the time, it makes this shit here whack. You have to figure out how to have a good time here. And my daughter doesn't need a fucking blunt. My little cousin doesn't need a bottle of alcohol. My niece doesn't need a mushroom to swing on the swing and smile ear to ear.
Yeah.
They don't need any of that shit.
Yeah.
All they need is freedom. And that's what we all want. We just want freedom. Mm-hmm. And we try to copy the shit that we see people doing that have the things that we want. And if you see somebody in your neighborhood that does what they want and they got 1 million pairs of sneakers, you're going to want 1 million pairs of sneakers because you want the cheat code. You don't know what they did to have to get there. And we do this shit with everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was like, I agree with everything that you said there, actually. It's, you know, you don't want to get too hung up on one particular like thing, like talking about mushrooms or something like that, when it's like, you know, that's a good point, man. You know, maybe that's why Jesus talked about returning to like a childlike state or being like children. Like you said, your daughter doesn't need any of that other stuff.
She needs a bottle. She needs a bottle and a blanket and a hug.
Yeah, food and love.
Beige.
Yeah.
Beige. Yeah.
Basic. It's basic shit, and it's like I've been looking at this thing, and thank you guys for introducing me to this spiral dynamics thing, because I like to personify things, and this is what the mushrooms and all that bullshit does. I can smell the colors, I can see the thing do to that. All that's possible to do. All that's possible to do without that bullshit, and it's personifying things, and I think this exists like with the color, like beige. I know it's just like a model for things and that, but just to quickly try to go over it, it's like the basic survival that needs the food, water, warmth, rest, sex, and safety. You look at a person that all they need are those things, and we look down on that. We look down on a person that's like, well, I'm saying generally speaking, not necessarily us, but you know, like that stage beige of just needing the very basic things. It's like we can argue to the end of time, is that happiness or not? Because it's like, shouldn't we just be able to stop there? But it's like, we know that there's other things involved that we want out of life and to get these things. But I think, like, for example, when I needed to, like me and my wife, when we first got together, whatever, it was like the basic needs and all that stuff we already had. I already had all of that taken care of. But then it's like growing up, I was in a situation where the people around me were struggling with beige. So they couldn't even think about getting to these other fucking stages of their life because it was basic survival shit. And it's like, and then they talk about purple. It's the tribes, the spirits of the nature. Again, I won't hang up on this too long, but it's like, and wanting to do things together and together. And it's like that jump from 1 to 2 is like, I think it's 0, 1, and 2. It's like going from nothing, which is the possibility of having anything, and then 1 and being alone, but that not being the same, not being enough. And it's like that personification of things, you know, whether it's numbers or colors, like that really resonates with me a lot when it comes to like how we are as humans. And just that, I think what I was trying to get to with the spiral dynamics thing is that I find like in my relationship, me and my wife, we're struggling for more of like a spiritual foundation. Like, okay, like Blue. We want to be like the boys in Blue, the police out there. They're the ones that enforce the laws. They love the rule book. They want to enforce that. Me and my wife, we've had to work and follow the rules and do all that shit so much that we kind of want the rule book, because we like the fact that it's like, if you pay the rent on this day and you go to work at this time, this is what the rule book says. And we like that because we know how to master that. Because we come from places where people don't know how to fucking do the right, not all, but too many people don't know how to just do the right shit and follow the fucking rules. And we're not perfect either, all right? You know, that's another thing. Like, but the whole point is, like, in our jobs and stuff, we like the rules, and we're very blue with like our jobs are. We're not the types to be very like risk-taking and trying to change things. And when I work around people that are always trying to shake up the industry. And you know what? Why don't I do what Elon Musk does, which is like question why we do this? And it's like, look, there's always a different way to fucking do something, but we're trying to constantly progress and keep things going. Yeah. So
even if you don't like police, you should be grateful they exist.
Exactly, and there's a reason for rules. Yeah. And it's like, and me and my wife, like, since we're not very strong religious people, we have noticed that it's missing, and I noticed that it's missing. That there's not enough of a foundation of what we kind of hold ourselves to. We're very laissez-faire, or whatever you want to say, just like we do whatever. And it's like that's not always good, because when you don't have a rule book, other people can't hold themselves to your rule book. So if I say, so the person who goes, just to make a church analogy, the guy that's like, yo, I go to church every Sunday at 9 o'clock, you're not knocking on his door at 8:45, because whether you agree with him or not on that church, he has set a foundation for himself. And it's like I've noticed me and my wife need to say that it's like, no, Wednesday night is gym night, and that's it. And there is no fucking changing nothing else about that. So with that, there's certain things. And I think just that I would like to hear how maybe you guys feel when it comes to like maybe relationships, you know what I mean, and fatherhood and children, like having like maybe what stage you guys are at, or just like how you like what you go to as like the pillar. Is it like what you think of? Is it, to me it's a hybrid of everything, but I almost envy the religious people, because I feel like they have their rule book set for them, and it's like easy to follow the rule, someone else's rules sometimes.
It's hard. It's I think I've got definite like weaknesses. I got things that I excel at, and my wife, she's got things that she excels at, and we try to play off of our strengths and get our weaknesses, out of the way. I'm kind of good at instilling maybe like getting tasks done around the house, setting up jobs. They always bug me that I give them too many jobs, too many things to do. But I think it's good for them that they get up and they contribute to the family, right? I might not be good at handling them when they have confrontations, when they fight with. I don't know. You just got the one kid, or
I got a babe. She's a couple months old.
Yeah. So you'll learn as they grow. They get friends. They fight. They do their because they're learning how to interact, right? I'm not so good at like settling their disputes. So my way of dealing with them is to give them tasks to give them busy hands, and I think that kind of keeps them out of trouble at some, on some level. I don't know. What about you?
I just feel like I guess the point I was trying to make is that like I think it's harder than ever to have like a rule book, because there's so much information out there, and it's so much easier to like diffuse from different cultures and different things. Like I believe in like meditation and things like that, but that doesn't make me like a Buddhist. Like I do kind of do what I think a lot of millennials do, where I kind of cherry pick from everywhere and kind of make my own thing, and that gets seen in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? Some people will see it as like, oh, you're just this millennial person with their head in the clouds that doesn't have like a foundation, and then other people will be like, oh, that's great that you can kind of do a little bit of everything. And it's just, I don't know, there's no answer, right?
Why not try to like dabble and try to find what works with you? How are you guys supposed to know if you just do the same thing you were taught since you were a little kid, and it's just do it this way, that's the only way to do it, and do it till you die? What if that doesn't work for you? You gotta try, sample out, some things.
For me, it is. I started it with the like. In a nutshell, the way I parent is like, my love for you is unconditional, and for good behavior, it's incentivized. Good things happen when you're good, and when you're bad, bad things happen. You know what I mean? Like if they're hurting each other or something, or lying to each other, or that sort of thing. If their room gets out of control, messy, it's like on Saturday, it's like we got to use up this Saturday to clean the dang room because it's so out of control. But I try to reward them for good stuff. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing in the end, but we're on a brownie point system, so if I give them a task to do and they do it well, they get some points which add up, and then they can use later for like a present or something like that. I try to incentivize them to do the good things. And then other than that, it's just like basic morals, like...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I definitely think like I'm very like beige in my fatherhood, because since she's so young, I can only focus on those things. It's like I play with her, I give her love, but it's really she just needs food, water, warmth, rest, you know what I'm saying? And safety, you know what I'm saying? Not the other thing yet. You know what I'm saying? But it's like she just needs that. And then it's like I feel like in like maybe my relationship with my wife, it's like when we were dating, it was like kind of red, right? It was like and just kind of going into that too, like that whole like to relate it to like the red pill world, right? People talk about red pill, and red pill is like realizing that you've been like controlled or whatever, and it's like fuck all of that, right? It's like no, I'm like my individual person, and that like I should be like higher up, and that like I'm a man, and that women are like not gonna control me, and like you know those alpha dog fucking idiot assholes that you have online.
Pickup.
Yeah.
You know about that?
Huh? Like those like dating coach guys or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that shit is bullshit. Like, and I dived into that for a little while too. Like for like a good month, it was the whole like, oh yeah, women wait at the finish line while we climb up and do. And yo, there's real shit to that too. There's a lot of real shit to that. You know what I'm saying? But it just becomes bullshit.
To me, the whole pickup culture thing is if you're like emergency case like 911, you've got no social skills, you're ridiculous, then maybe get into that and build up some confidence a little bit. But it peters out fast when you want to have a sustainable, fulfilling, full relationship. That crap doesn't work. You can't be like, I'm giving her the ice treatment. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing, man? You know, like you live with this person. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So
that has ripple effects.
And when it comes to relationships, the biggest thing to me is seriously communication and honesty. It's like if everybody's being as honest as they can be and communicating and putting the work in, because sometimes it's not always easy for two people to understand what the other one is saying. You gotta like hash that out, you know. So it does take work, but the dividends are worth it. You know, pickup is like. Pickup to me is just about coming out of your shell, you know, and learning that I can get people to like,
I can manipulate people if I.
Because when you're a young man, you start off I don't know if anybody will take me. My voice is changing and I'm covered in acne. You know, when you're when you're young, like a young man, you don't know any of that, and you got to try something. So you got to be brave, and you got to go out into the world and be mysterious, so that people get catch people's attention.
So we are limited on some time. So there's one question I was curious about that I wanted to get to before we are done. Is you've mentioned this a couple times. Are you a flat earther?
I am not a flat earther.
You are?
I am not.
Oh, you're not. Okay. All right.
Okay. So we're gonna go. I'm gonna go deep. I'm gonna try to. All right.
I'm a square earther.
I believe that anything you go looking for, you're gonna find information to support it.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. I believe that if you are under the impression that the earth is flat, there is a wealth of information
I know. It's ridiculous.
to prove it, and I think that there's a wealth of, again, like if you want to make the feeling of what is being convinced, there's no way to paint that. What is conviction? It's a state of mind, right? To be convinced of something. Now, if you want to, I think there's plenty of that out in the emotional marketplace. I think there is so much of that out there floating around that doubt, like I think doubt is a thing. Like I think doubt like enters and leaves people, and it's exchanged and we share it. And it's like, hopefully you have it when you need it. But I think the conviction, the ability to be convinced, is this thing that there's unlimited of. And if you fucking want to believe some shit, it's going to become real for you.
That'd be a neat thing to try, is literally run an experiment. Like, I'm going to pick the craziest thing and try to believe it. Like, pick something like...
You can.
I'm going to pick leprechauns, and I'm going to try to find evidence. You find folklore about it. You find some guy on the internet that's like, oh, they definitely exist. you know, and this is where you got to go to find one, and you'll go to that place and see a little shadow, and you'll be like, I think I saw one. You know, it won't be long before you're like plagued by leprechauns, you know, that don't even exist because you built that up in your mind.
Yeah, and like the physical shape of the earth or whatever in those things, like I believe that we are in a reality where a round earth works for us. Like whether it's like actually like real or not, that agreement has created what this is and what we have around us, and that is the thing to believe. Now, quickly on flat earthers, I love flat earthers. These are people that what they're trying to say is you've been fooled. They, the big they, are lying to you. So I can get that sentiment. You see, like I can receive that from somebody and know when somebody just really cares. And most flat earthers are people that have been lied to or something that's happened to them, and they just really want to wake other people up. A lot of them are full of shit and just trying to sell you a t-shirt. But there are genuinely people out there that are just like, yo, they like I care. And that's why I enjoy listening to it, because again, I can listen to anybody who just
have you seen the documentary, the Flat Earther
I've seen it. I don't know if I've specifically seen maybe the one you're referencing, but I've watched hours upon hours upon hours.
I found it a little sad. I found it sad sometimes because some of these guys like lose their whole life, and you go into their garage and they've got charts and diagrams like explaining, and I'm like, dude, it's not worth it. It doesn't even matter if the world is flat. Let it go.
And that's what I'm trying to help a lot of people with, I feel like. And it's not that I'm trying to cure the world or do this or do that or anything, because, again, like, I have a lot of crazy beliefs.
Okay, you know rapid fire then. Past Flat Earther. You reference they a lot in some of your videos. Who are they?
They are, it's two different people. It's the elite. It's the people that are in power. The deep state people it's the people who have lived lives where they haven't had to connect with people, yet they've been put into positions where they control people. People that are in these high positions of power have control over, like I live in New York City. I see thousands of people every single day. There are people who have not seen that many people in their life, and they control people on that scale. So just really quickly, it's the elites that are in power that are essentially inhumane people. And it's also a field of energy that worries about itself and not everyone as a collective. It's a spirit. It's a spirit and a group of people. That's what they are.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Pandemic or scamdemic? Or
it's
in between.
It's a real sickness with marketing and greed put around it.
Yeah.
It's both. It's both. It's definitely both.
Yep. Yeah. No.
I could go into the rapid fire moon landing. The whole shit, all the marketing, all the fluff, all the everything we've seen, bullshit. Fake. I do not believe any of it. I do believe that we've been there, but it's not what we saw Neil Armstrong do. All that shit is fake. We probably go there every single day. Who knows? But I don't think it's that far away. I don't think the moon is as far as they say it is. I think the shit's right there, and I'm pretty sure we've been there. But the fluff piece they give us about it is fake. Dinosaurs, bullshit. Dinosaurs, fake. Dinosaurs are fake. They don't know who shot the guy down the block 2 weeks ago. You're not telling me what happened on this planet 1 billion years ago. Dinosaurs die, no source. It's bullshit. It's fake. I don't believe it. I think that there were prehistoric animals on this planet. I don't think we know what they looked like. And all that shit you see in the museum is baloney. And it's been proven that that shit is all fake. So.
Oh. You're like only the second person I've ever met that doesn't believe it. I worked with a guy once that was like, dinosaurs aren't real. And I was like, there's only like 2 people I've ever met that think dinosaurs aren't real.
I think again, like I think that all these occurrences and big major pieces and stories that have happened, 9/11, JFK, all that stuff, was carried out by elites that are inhumane. But I believe that the emotion inside of our brains, the greed, the callousness, those things come from somewhere. And wherever that thing that's being fed into our reality is being controlled by very powerful people. And I don't think that they're at a machine pressing a button and spitting out sadness. But I think they understand that our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts come from somewhere else.
That's a scary ass thing though, because I've thought about that before. Like, oh my god, like what if there is like a clandestine group of whatever powerful people orchestrating all this, and you know some of the insights that folks like us come to them, like what if this is part of the plan? That there's like a fringe group of people, you know, that are like, it's all the Matrix, you know, or then wouldn't it be that you're so controlled already that even what seems like a novel or unique insight is part of the exactly what they wanted to happen? You know, why would they allow certain types of truth to exist? That's too deep.
Yeah, because I don't believe that. Yeah, like I don't believe they're like coding reality. I just think that they understand that there's more to reality, so they control people. It's like, again, a lot of this stuff is stuff. I don't know. Do you guys watch Doctor Who by chance?
No.
Okay, never mind
You gotta
that.
get around to
Have
it.
you ever? Are you familiar with Bill Cooper at all?
No.
Big name in the conspiracy. Well, anyway, I have to mention this. It's the light and the dark. It's the fight between the light and the dark. And we all want to be awake and alive in the light, and the light brings us out of the darkness when we're scared. And again, on a metaphoric and on a physical level. And the person that knows how to start the fire and control the fire becomes the first priest, becomes the first ruler. That's the first red pill. The person that comes with the fire and leads you out of the darkness. And it's like our whole lives are just based on that and trying not to be not die. And we rely on the people that feed us that. So that person, that magic man, it's like in Wizard of Oz. He's not really magic. The elites are not printing and scripting reality in a machine somewhere, but they know that people's emotions are a certain way, so they control that. But again, it's that frequency and that greed has to be coming from somewhere.
Wouldn't it just be the most obvious thing in the world that, like, after you'd acquired, like, unlimited amounts of wealth, you can do anything you want. Now all that's left is to preserve it. And so the best way to preserve the place that you're at is to make sure that no one else can get to where you're at. Right? Wouldn't that be like the simplest, like, I don't know.
But the thing with these people is that they're not climbing to where they're at. It's not like every single person starts at zero and then gets to this other point. It's like a lot of people are starting off at a certain point and then going higher. And then most people just start at a point and end at that point too.
Yeah.
And I think people like us, we see things differently and we have certain privileges and time to like examine these things. And I just think like we're special people. Like it's just, like I said, I know people that are fucking brain dead. It's like their life is get up, and you want to call that an NPC, whatever. It's like, there's no room for any of this stuff. And it's like, so where does this come from that I can sit around and talk about these things and connect with people, and that I have, I think, what is it? The thirst for like wanting to connect, because that's where I'm at right now. Like I've realized that it's like at my job, I'm very like, I guess turquoise, whatever. It's like, I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about shit, none of that, because I know what I know. And I don't need to prove that to nobody. I used to go to work and try to, other jobs and try to tell everybody about 9/11, and it fucks you over. And then you end up nowhere because you're reading the scripts of people and they're playing the script. Yeah. And it's just like, I think with my spirituality, and call it content, call it whatever, because it's like
most people are invested in a far
want
more
that connection.
Facile game anyway.
I want to connect with somebody. I've realized that I have there is an ego to this spirituality that I have because it wants to connect. This thing inside of me is at a point where it's tired of being by itself. In my house, I got my shit locked down. In my job, my career, my education, these things are solidified. In my spirituality, it's hungry to connect with other people, because my entire life I've been in this world where I feel crazy. And it's like, yo, and like I said, we didn't talk too much about it. It's like, like I said, I see shit, I hear shit, you want to, whatever. It's like, I have a crazy heightened intuition. I will hear things sometimes that tell me not to go somewhere, and people will call that crazy, call it whatever. It has saved me. It saved my life. And it's like, I'm on here trying to connect with people, and I guess the question is like, am I crazy? Am I the only person thinking this shit? And I think that a lot of us are starting to feel that, where it's like people will say, oh, going quickly into words like, oh, you just want validation. It's like, yeah, you have, and like understanding feelings. This is something I came on YouTube to do also. It's to take feelings and not stigmatize them. So, oh, validation. You just want validation. Yeah, guess what? Validation is pretty cheap. A lot of people, when they go, oh, these girls on Instagram just want validation. No, they want your money. They want you to buy the lip gloss and the bullshit and the this and the tummy tea and all of that. If it was just validation, that would be awesome. If there was a website where the currency was thumbs up and that's all it was, it would be a wonderful place. But we know that it's about ads and bullshit and everything else. So understanding that validation is actually a pretty easy, good thing to do. And now another thing like jealousy. To be jealous. What is jealousy? People be like, especially men, oh, I'm not jealous, I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm like, yo, if you see somebody in a big ass house eating a steak 3 meals a day, and you have one egg to get you through the week, and you are not jealous of that person, you're broken. Because jealousy is what allows you to desire and want and to be possessive. Ain't nobody gonna hold my baby. No one's gonna do shit like in my house. It's like that jealousy allows me to stay on point with my shit, which quickly takes me to staying closed-minded. This open-minded bullshit in the spirituality community, to me, is nonsense. My mind needs to be closed. I need to know what I know, allow shit in when I need to, and keep it contained. If I'm open-minded, you're going to lead me to some shit I don't want to fucking do. That's what a fool is. A fool is very open-minded, that sticks a pipe in their mouth or a bottle in their fucking arm, a needle in their arm. It takes a very open-minded person to do stupid-ass shit like that. And then, so these are the things like with the wordplay and this and that. And then the last one I need to touch on is judgment. People will be like, judgment-free zone. I don't like to judge. Listen, I have to judge every single person that I let into my circle. I have to judge every single person in my life. And that's what allows the people around me to know that they're safe when they're around me, because I judge. I don't pass judgment. I'm not going to sentence you to death or sentence you to bondage, but I have to judge every single person around me. And if I don't do that, I'm a fool. And I'm not being protective of what I have. So those are just 3 words when it comes to mantras and things like that.
The first thing that you said, where you're like, I need validation. I can't remember if it was Timothy Leary or Terence McKenna. One of them said, like, way back when the world was becoming a little more interconnected, a catchphrase was like, find the others, because there's not, even back then they knew it was not everybody, right? Even back then there was probably people that were, superficially a hippie, but, were still not in it for the truth or something, right? And so I agree that same story as me, man. Like going up through high school and then going into the work world, it was like I'm talking about stuff and I'm interested in stuff that not many people are resonating with, and they, and everything's a lot more facile.
You want a little bit more depth.
But the other thing was about open-mindedness. You take a pretty hard and fast stance on open-mindedness. I do think that there are elements of being open-minded that are a little more innocuous, depending on how privileged you are. Like, like you said, it's like there's no argument here. If I drop you in the middle of a bad neighborhood and you're just open-minded, you're going to be open-minded into, becoming a bitch for some pimp, So yeah, it can be foolish, right? But if you've secured all your other stuff, you learned all those lessons early, spiral dynamic style, you learned all the lessons, and then you're kind of like, you know what? I'm in a position now where maybe I can, along with those lessons I learned that there's a lot of people full of shit. So
Yeah.
so even and maybe I'm full of shit. Maybe I like turn the mirror on myself. Maybe I'm lying to myself about something, and maybe I can deconstruct some of that stuff safely without getting stabbed. You know, I can deconstruct some of those beliefs that I put in, and then open up some more doors. You know, but you're right. There is a foolish way to be open-minded.
Well, I think that the mistake you can sometimes make with open-mindedness doesn't really mean you just believe everything that people tell you. I think the idea around healthy open-mindedness would be to be a critical thinker and not just deny something right off the cuff because it doesn't go along with your narrative or your belief system. So I think there's like a positive and a negative to open-mindedness.
And there is value in sticking to what you've learned.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like
What you were saying.
Once you've learned something, you know, not to just treat it frivolously. Like write it on your mantle, write it on your heart. Like I learned this lesson. I'm not gonna forget it. You know, because what am I? Some kind of idiot? You know, that just doesn't even learn his lessons.
Well, that's I think what that's the conservative community always rails against the woke community because the woke community seems really they want to get rid of some of these rules and things that have been set in place that have helped humanity get us to where we are right now. And a more traditionalist side of thinking might be like, well, hold on a second, you know, if you just get rid of that, then you know, it's going to lead to this problem and this problem. Have you even thought about these things? You know, it's not as simple as just being like, oh, just change this and everything will be perfect. But
do you believe in signs?
Like, yeah.
Like, do you believe that like the world we live in, reality, will tell you some shit about what's going on?
Oh yeah, like There, you know what's really neat? I'll just say a quick little story. I heard a guy. I was trying to learn about sigils, magical sigils, and this guy told a story where he pulled this technique from. He had heard it from Grant Morrison. I don't know if you know who that is. He wrote the Invisibles comic book, and he's a big magic guy. But he pulled this technique, and it's called like a shaman's walk, where you'll go into a town or a city that you're not quite familiar with. And you'll walk around as if the city's communicating with you. You go into kind of like a fugue state. You go into kind of like a trance-like state, or just whatever feels spiritual and connected to you. And then you walk through, and then you just look as if the town or the city's trying to communicate with you. And then sure enough, you'll be kind of guided. I've done this before.
Like the collective conscious.
Yeah, I've done this before, and it took me somewhere.
I believe that wholeheartedly. I mean, strongly in my heart. I call it the technology. I call it trying to find weed in a neighborhood you're not from. You look around, you look for the guy on the corner. You know what I mean? There's ways to get what you need based on the surroundings and reading it. And the only term I can come up with is the technology. I believe that there is a field that we can't see where essentially these like infographics live. And you know how people always say, man, I wish I could see every time I drank a soda. I wish I could see every time I flushed the toilet. I think that there is somewhere, everybody uses computer terms nowadays, but like, you know, the hard drive of your brain or whatever, it's like, I think that all these things are actually recorded somewhere. And people might call it like the Akashic record or something, but I think that there is an actual field, and I see it. This is my testimony as a crazy truther, that I can weigh and see things. I can take my hunger and I can look at it using the technology, and I can say to myself, this is not hunger, this is boredom. You want 24 wings with buffalo sauce, not because you're hungry, it's because you're bored. But I can also see when like I'm being wrong about something. So it's like knee-jerk reactions. I can be like, yeah, my knee-jerk reaction is fuck those motherfuckers. But then I know that the real answer is I need to be compassionate and do what I gotta do. And I think that field or wherever it is, you weigh and compare and contrast things. is really something you could tap into. And I think that it comes down to like with the collective conscious and all that. I think that if you make an infographic of where you are, and maybe it has something to do with astral projection or something like that, which is something I'm very into when it comes as a survival mechanism of growing up in a troublesome home, the ability to escape oneself. Me and my sister have the ability, we would close our eyes and wake up and it was the next morning because we would go into, you go into deep REM sleep or whatever you call it. I can close my eyes and wake up and it's the fucking morning. I just go out. I go out. And it's because of the noise and all the shit that we were dealing with in that trauma. So it's like, I'm sure there's a scientific explanation. You take me to a doctor, they're gonna go, oh, that's childhood trauma, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Call it what you want. Yo, I have a gift. I have the ability to know when shit is going on because I have heightened senses. I can go, I had an occurrence happen with me where I was around somebody and I was like, why does this guy have a turtle shell? I saw him, he had a turtle shell. And call me schizo, call with me, whatever the fuck you want. I pay my rent on time. I have a wife, a kid. I am a functioning human being. I'm not suicidal, for the record, to the guys listening in the van. I'm a regular dude. I saw my homie walking down the street and he had a turtle shell. And I said, yo, why are you in my head? I'm like, why are you inside of a turtle shell? But of course I didn't say that to him. And he was walking like he had a rugged exterior. And I asked him what happened. He said, nah, nothing happened. And I kept pressing him about it. He goes, yo, I was on the other side of town in another borough. And like, I got into some shit with my girl's dad. And like, yo, they had me cornered. Like they had me cornered in there and like, blah, blah, blah. And I got nervous, but I got out of there. I held my own, whatever. And I was like, so that's why you got your turtle shell on right now. You're worried. You have a tough exterior around you.
Yeah.
You stuck your head inside your shell, but you're still inside the shell. Come out the shell, you're safe now. And we chilled and he calmed down. And he was like, how did you know something was wrong? I'm like, yo, I used the technology, bro. I know I can personify feelings. I can take a feeling and weigh it. And I can go, yo, I want a PS5. And I can make a statue. And the statue is poking out this way and it's ugly. And I'm like, why is this statue so ugly? Because it's an ugly feeling. But when I look at the love for my daughter, it's this beautiful vase that can't be broken. And it's because I can personify these feelings and I'm talking like, I'm not trying to sell nobody shit. Nothing I have is for sale. I don't have a self-help book. I don't have an ebook. I don't have nothing. I'm just a regular dude that's looking for validation that there's something more going on in this fucking world that we don't know about.
Was he actually wearing a turtle shell or was this
No, he was walking down the street and he was so nervous and upset about what happened. And I saw it on him. I saw him and I said, no, I didn't say it out loud, but the vision I had was him walking with it was like a turtle inside of a shell. Yeah. And when I again, it was a visualization of the sense that I got from him.
Yeah.
So I'm not I didn't see him walking around with a fucking shell. In my head, when I put his feeling on into the printer, it printed out a shell. Like I don't know how to explain this shit. Whatever it is. I'm sorry, yeah, but that's just some shit that happened. But yeah, like cool. I just definitely think that there's something more going on here, and that these feelings that we have, there's something more to them. There's definitely something more to them.
All right. Well, I've got to give my house back to my family.
Gotcha.
It has been great. We've had a good talk. We've got about an hour 40 here. So. Yeah. No, it's been really good. Is there any final thoughts? Is there anything else you want to add? Anything you feel like you have anything you feel like you need to say?
I want to thank you guys. I have to thank you guys for listening to me, for bearing with me.
Thank you.
I'm not always the best communicator. I get very excited about stuff. When I get into this thing, I talk too loud. I'm sorry if I cut you guys off in the middle of you talking.
No, it's great.
There's so much stuff just that I've been waiting to get off my chest. And this is just, I hope, a step in the right direction. And I just, like I said, I'm not perfect at these things. I'm not always great, but I have a lot on my mind that I need to get out. And I'm just trying to connect with people and figure out what's going on here and end this defamation of questioning reality and truth that's going on with people, where they think that if you're talking about the truth, you're talking about storming some building, and that's not what we're talking about. We're just saying that maybe there's something more going on here, and what can we do with it? Like, that's really where I'm at. And again, just bear with me, man. I'm a passionate New Yorker. Thank you.
Well, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks for coming on the show. If you've watched it and you liked it, I will leave a link in the description here for Dan Keeper's show. You can click on that, see what he's all about, what he's got going on. If you liked the episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like, the share, hit the notification bell. We got all our stuff also in the description box. So maybe we can do this again sometime down the road. We'll see where things go. You've been a great guest. So we'll see where things are at in the future. And everybody, until next time, sit with us, Dan. Stay spiritual!